Our planet is home to many strange and interesting dinosaurs. They have been able to adapt to all ecosystems and climates, and although they are not as big as they used to be, there are some pretty hefty modern day dinosaurs. The majority of the largest birds on this planet are flightless, and tend to live a very long way away from Europe. Despite this, Europe does have some very large birds of its own, whether it be in the wetlands, the grasslands, or high up in the skies. In this video I will be focusing on these birds, as I will be going through 7 of the largest birds in Europe. Now, because most birds like to use their wings, many of the birds that can be found in Europe can also be found in other parts of the world. In some cases, birds just briefly visit Europe and leave after a very short period. That's why I'll be trying to focus on large birds that spend quite a long time in Europe, and we'll start off with the bearded vulture. Now, the bearded vulture is one of the most unique birds that can be found in Europe, and it's famous for its very strange diet. Unlike most other vultures that have little to no feathers on their head, the bearded vulture has quite a few orange feathers. This is because they're not that closely related to other vulture species, and its closest living relative, the Egyptian vulture, also still has quite a few feathers on its head. Around 80% of this bird's diet consists of bone, and as you can imagine, this is quite a difficult food source to eat. To break these bones, they will drop them from a height, and they are also known to drop creatures such as lizards and turtles to kill them. Their diet of bones makes them a very valued member of the cleanup crew, and it also makes them very heavy birds, as they can reach a maximum weight of around 8 kilograms, while having a wingspan of around 3 meters. This really is an impressive size for any bird, but it does leave them last at number 7 on this list. But our next bird is again another vulture, known as the Eurasian Griffon vulture. Now, this bird looks more like your classic vulture, with very little feathers on its head. This is of course an adaptation to help them feed on carrion, as it means there's less feathers to get soiled while feeding on a carcass. This bird is most often seen at great altitudes, where they use their keen eyesight to search for food. In some cases they will stay in the air for 6 or 7 hours each day, but their large powerful wings makes this easy work. Once they find a carcass, they will often share it with other birds, but they're often not very friendly towards each other when doing so. When it comes to picking a carcass, this bird isn't very fussy, as they're able to consume rotting meat, even if it contains anthrax, botulism, and even cholera. This means that they play a very important role when it comes to stopping the spread of diseases, and even though they're ugly, they are a very important bird to have around. Just like the bearded vulture, they have a wingspan of around 3 meters, but the griffon vulture is much bulkier and can reach a maximum weight of around 12 kilograms, and that puts this vulture at a very impressive 6 on this list. But our next species is our third and final vulture, and it is the Cinereous Vulture. Now, this bird lives a very similar life to the previously mentioned vulture, but they are a little larger and are more dominant. As well as having very few feathers on its head, just like some other vultures, it has another adaptation to help them feed on carcasses. They possess a nictating membrane, which acts almost like a third eyelid. This stops rotten flesh from getting into their eyes, which can really save them from infection. Unfortunately, like many other vultures in recent years, this bird's numbers have been declining. Their diets make them very useful creatures to have around, but it has also led to their decline. They are known to eat poisoned bait meant for other animals, and when they feed on farm animals, they are sometimes poisoned by the medication held in the animal's body. Luckily, there are many conservation efforts, and at the moment this species is only listed as near threatened. Now, this bird does hold the record for largest vulture that can be found in Europe, with a maximum wingspan of around 3.1 meters and a max weight of a whopping 14 kilograms. This makes them one of the largest vultures in the world and gives them a number 5 place on this list. But finally, we'll be stepping away from the vultures, as our next bird is the whooper swan. Now, this swan is a very large wetland bird and is usually found in vast wetland areas. Now, most swan species tend to look alike, meaning it can be quite hard to identify them, but this swan can be identified by its very yellow bill and the fact that it's a lot larger than birds that look similar to it, such as Buick's swan. This bird is much loved throughout its native range and has been the national bird of Finland since 1981. It can even be seen on some €1 coins, so it really is quite the celebrity. Although these birds are quite hefty, they are still impressive flyers and undertake long migrations at high altitudes. To help them along in these migrations, they can have a wingspan of up to 2.7 meters, and they can reach an impressive weight of around 15 kilograms. This makes them among the heaviest flying birds, and number 4 on this list. But for our next species, we can head to the coasts and large lakes, as we have the Dalmatian Pelican. Now, this bird is the largest member of the pelican family, and it could also be the largest freshwater bird. Like other pelicans, the majority of their diet is made up of fish, and they are known for being very greedy and opportunistic. They will often follow fishing boats and also pester people on land. Unfortunately, just like the vultures, in recent years the Dalmatian pelican's numbers have been in decline. The reasons behind this are quite complicated, but are all human related. One of the main reasons is habitat loss, as we are more than happy to destroy wetlands to make room for developments. In some countries such such as Mongolia, hunting is also an issue, because their bills are very valuable on the black market. In some areas they are also hated by fishermen, as they see them as a threat to their livelihood. This is really a very selfish reason to hate these birds, as we do share this planet, and I'm sure we kill a lot more fish than these pelicans do. But when it comes to size, the Dalmatian pelican is one of the largest flying birds, and with an impressive wingspan of around 3.5 meters. They even rival the great albatrosses. Along with this impressive wingspan, they are also very bulky, but max out at around 15 kilograms, and this size puts them among the middle places, at number 3 on this list. But our next species is yet another swan, in the mute swan. Now, although this swan is native to Euro-Siberia, today it has been introduced into North America. Of course, North America has a few swans of its own, and this swan directly competes with them. In the wild, it is a very peaceful wetland bird, and spends most of its day feeding on aquatic plants, as well as aquatic insects and snails. These birds are famously less vocal than other swans, which is how they got their name of mute swan, just like the previously mentioned hooper swan. The mute swan is also very popular in its native range. It's the national bird of the Kingdom of Denmark, and they are very popular with bird watchers. Again, the mute swan is one of the largest flying birds in the world, with a wingspan of around 2.4 meters and a maximum weight of around 15 kilograms. Although this is around the same size as the Dalmatian pelican, in some very rare cases they can grow even larger, with one famous mute swan in Poland weighing 23 kilograms. This would have made it the largest flying bird on record, but it's thought that this heavyweight was unable to fly. So even though it's not the largest bird in Europe, at least it is the largest swan. But for our next species, we will be heading to the open grasslands of Europe, as we have the great bustard. Now, this very strange looking bird is the only member of its genus, but it is a member of the bustard family. This includes many other large famous birds, such as the Australian bustard and the Koori bustard. These birds are very large and heavy set, and males have a large bulging neck and heavy crest. When the mating season comes around, they put on impressive displays for the females, and the males will often mate with multiple females. These birds thrive in grassland habitats, and in these areas they are omnivorous, mostly feeding on plant material and invertebrates. Now, at first glance you may assume this bird is flightless, mainly due down to how heavy set it is, but rather surprisingly this bird can fly, and because of its appearance and this surprising fact, they are often known as flying fortresses. Because of their natural habitat and their diet, there is often conflict with farmers, and historically humans have overhunted this species. It became extinct in Britain in 1832, but there has been some recent attempts to reintroduce them. Today, Portugal and Spain have around 60% of the world's population, and hopefully with more conservation efforts, there'll be even more in the future. But when it comes down to size, this bird is one of the largest birds in Europe, with a wingspan of around 2.7 meters, and an unbelievable maximum weight of around 19 kilograms. It really is surprising that this bird can even fly, and it's a very deserving number 1 on this list. If you think I've missed any birds out, then let me know down in the comments below. But thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. But until next time, goodbye.